Hi everyone, good evening. Ni hao, namaste, shinjao, and welcome. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you for joining our IDP Facebook Live session from across the globe. Today we are running a live session for an international students on the much awaited topic, a migration strategy for Australia, which was announced yesterday. That's right. We will share the updates and summarize few key takeaway points for you that will really help you further on understanding latest migration policies and update. The government's migration strategy was released on 11th of December, that is yesterday, and it outlines a new vision for Australia's migration system with a policy roadmap containing 8 key actions and over 25 new policy commitments. Now, what are those changes? The top key ones are starting with moving forward, the government intends to reduce migration to more sustainable levels that will benefit genuine students and Australia economy and help in supporting filling the skill shortage. Now, the second one is visa hopping to be monitored and scrutinized. Department mentioned that how some of the small agents misguiding students to study concurrent courses that too in really private ghost colleges and eventually advising them to leave their primary course without applying for a new visa. It was a big concern for government. So that will be under scrutiny from now onwards, and we will dive deeper in this topic further. Then we got the third one, English language requirements for international students. So Minister emphasized that the change would also help to ensure the success of international students in Australia and highlighting that those with the lower level of English are often at much higher risk of exploitation. So it is really to support and secure international students in Australia. Now, to address Australia's ongoing skill shortages, the department is introducing a new visa called the Skill Demand Visa. There will be 3 pathways to this visa. This visa is also known as 482, and in layman language, we also called it employer visa. We will further explore this with our migration expert who is on the panel, which I will just introduce after this update. Then we have Simplify PSW visa and migration pathway, simplifying the migration system to improve the experience for migrants and employers. So they're trying to make it more simpler and easier for us to understand and apply. Lastly, priority to a regional area. Now, if you study and work in regional area, your file and your overall career pathway will also be prioritized under this new regulation. So let's get into it. What are these changes in details and how it is going to impact? One thing as a disclaimer, I would like at the beginning that this policy update is quite new and there's a lot of information yet to come. So to all the students who are going through this information, if you are nervous and panic, not sure, please put a pause on it. We will bring more information to you in coming days. What are the details? What are the technical part of it and who it is going to impact and what are the opportunities? So we will bring that information to you. So please don't get nervous just with this information at this stage. On the panel today, I have Alice Guan, our Destination Migration Manager, who is our region's migration expert. Alice has got wealth of migration experience and she has seen international students' journey. So she will explain you further what it really means to you. And then I've got Summer Fang, our Assistant Destination Manager, who herself been an international student and she understands students' needs and concerns quite well. So she will explain on the other side what it means for student to study further in Australia. So hi, Alice and Summer. First of all, thank you for joining this session. Now, we would like to explore these changes and what it really means to our international students, really in a simplified language, because I can see there's a lot of technical terms used in the strategy pack, which was released yesterday. So my first question to Alice, what these changes really means to international students?
So this changes, we have to get in mind why the government have set the plan. So the aim for this migration strategy is meant to bring down the number of temporary migrants to a sustainable pre-pandemic level. So I think all the students in Australia right now may already experience that it's not so easy to find a rental, that sometimes it takes time from you moving from one places to another places and you constantly stuck in the traffic because there are so many people here. So that's why the government actually thought about it. That's why we have this new strategy in place for next 1 or 2 years to bring down the temporary migrant to a sustainable level. So there was an action plan published together with this 99 pages cover-to-cover strategy that some of the changes will happen sooner than the other. And today, our cover is mainly focusing on international students and students who are about to graduate and what kind of pathway or future that you may be looking at.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. That's good to know, Alice. So if you can elaborate like one by one some of these high-level changes for our students, that'll be great.
Yeah, so I will just go as a timeline. So we'll go there one by one. That earlier the implement, we're gonna go with the first point. So for the first thing we want to cover is the English requirement about to change. So the review have found that lower English proficiency may make students vulnerable to exploitation. That's why in earlier next year, the department is about to increase the IELTS requirement for a student visa. So the IELTS score required for a student visa will be increased from 5.5 to 6. And the IELTS requirement for student undertaking ELICOS, which is the English course, before starting their main course, increased from 4.5 to 5. And for student intended to undertake the university foundation or pathway courses, the IELTS requirement will be 5.5. So their other increased will be the IELTS score for temporary graduate visa, which is the popular 485 visa, that increased from 6 to 6.5. In general, I don't think that English increase is that drastic, because as we know that most of the university courses, the entry requirement is already at a 6 or above. Yeah, so it's already similar, and the visa setting in the past is actually lower than the university requirement. And right now they just kind of streamlined and the process. As for the temporary graduate, the increase is not that big as well, because when you're thinking why students apply for this visa, because they have the intention to find a job and to try out whether they can use their knowledge in the Australian labor market. That's why they apply for this visa. Imagine yourself looking for a professional job. If you only have IELTS 6, then I would imagine it's gonna be difficult. So it's gonna be hard. So the department actually just setting the English requirement just a little bit increase to help the student to visualize their full potential when they're looking into the employment. So in a way, I think it's a push for students to study harder in the English before they graduate, so they can better prepare to go into the labor market to find a job.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Alice. And you mentioned that it will be implemented from next year, January onwards. Yeah,
it will be early next year, so we expect after New Year there will be something up. So closely follow us. So we'll be providing more detail. The other thing they want to implement in the same time is the new Genuine student test for our international students. So I think this test already been in discussion very long time ago, because there was constantly doubt about the current setting. So the current setting for a student to grant a student visa is that they need to meet the genuine temporary entrant, require the student to say, well, we have very good job prospect in my home country. I'm gonna go home after I finish my course. Lots of people feel it's not set in purpose, because it's very obvious the international student have this temporary graduate visa after the student, why they cannot use this visa, why they can't say they want to find a job in Australia to utilize their Australian degree to test the labor market. So I think this new introduced the genuine student test is especially built for that purpose, because in this new test, it's acknowledging that some of the student will be able to apply a permanent visa or at least a temporary skilled visa when they be eligible. So the GSD will outline the key area for consideration, including the circumstances of the applicant, such as their academic background or career progression, and the usefulness of the intended study to their future career prospect. So it's very similar, but it's also recognizing that the student does have opportunity to migrate eventually if they are eligible. So they don't necessarily need to say, in the new setting, they don't necessarily need to say, oh, I'm gonna go back to my home country after I finish my course immediately. So it's a relief for some students.
It's a good news, yeah, agree.
Yes. So but there are also a but. So then, because the intention is to reduce the temporary migration, which means for some non-genuine students, there will be additional scrutiny, which means the student moving from one course to another course, usually below their current level of study, will face extra scrutiny that you need to be able to explain that why you make the decision. And if you can't actually explain well in your genuine student test statement, then you won't be able to meet the visa requirement. And the other thing about this is about for graduate, for students who already granted a temporary graduate visa, if they want to revert it back to student setting, it will be more difficult, because according to the department's review, that lots of the students who finished the master degree and they exhausted 485 visa, they're looking for VET courses when they switch it back to the student visa. And this is something that the department doesn't want to see, because they feel that the courses they selected is not very value added to their career or to their academic progress.
Okay.
So that's the first few things we are looking to implement earlier next year. Yeah. So there are also something will happen, obviously, in the mid-year as well. So that the government states that a graduate is working in a skilled job in a labor market, then the graduate should be able to apply either the new skill independent visa or a permanent skilled visa. So the thing they want to do is to provide a clear pathway how you apply from one visa to another visa, and they give you more certainty, because they don't want people to be in Australia jumping from one visa to another visa to another visa. So the temporariness for a visa holder to spend all those years in Australia on temporary visa, not in a skilled job, is not something the department want to see, and it's not a good experience for international students as well. So that's why from in the middle of next year, there will be changes on 485, the temporary graduate visa, which means they are looking to reduce the age. The maximum eligible age limit for the 485, they are looking to reduce to 35, which is currently sitting at 50. The proposal is to have the skilled migrant for longer working period, so they can contribute to Australia longer. the duration for the visa will also be shorter because the department want to provide a clear pathway whether you can transit or you not be able to transit. So they feel that you don't need that long duration to sit in Australia because you should already qualify for another visa. Then you're able to move on. Then why you need that long visa for you? So under the new setting, the duration, the 485 visa duration will be 2 years for bachelor degree and master degree by coursework, and the 3 years for master by research and the PhD student. And but the student who have been studied in regional area will still have eligible for extension of 1 to 2 years, depending on the location. And I think lots of students gonna ask, so I'm just gonna say it here that at the moment it's very hard to tell whether the government gonna keep the promise that they made it earlier to those students who started the course on the demand occupation list. Remember that qualification list produced by the Education Department and Home Affairs earlier this year, and I think that that's driven some students to enroll into that course. So the course list is supposed to give extension for 2 years, but at this stage we don't know whether there is a transition period allow the current student still be able to get the longer visa. We just don't know the detail, and so we will put inquiry to the Department of Home Affairs to provide guidance for our
certain information.
whether the current student should be able to give a pathway or some sort of information.
Exactly. And Alice, it's amazing that you address this question because we have started seeing some queries from our students back in the home country. Offshore and onshore, some of the students as well mentioned, some of them are concerned with the age part, like people who are on 31 and 32 currently studying. They're worried that whether they will get the post-study work visa. And the other part, like you mentioned, that students who already came and studying, they're still expecting that 3 to 4 years of longer post-study work visa. So like you said, the information is not clear yet. There is a possibility they might get exempted, the current student, or might be different rules. We still need to find out that information for all our students. So please don't get panicked. Once we find the information, we will just provide that information back to you, and we will put it on our social channels as well. And like Alice said, that we are sending inquiry to department to find out who will come into this new post-study work visa umbrella. So if you're currently onshore or offshore applying, still go ahead with your application and we will provide the information further. Sorry, Alice, back to you.
Yeah. So the other advice that we about to give is that for some international student, you are already eligible for the extension based on the qualification list. So if you are already in that cohort, considering contact us to make the application as soon as possible, just to avoid unnecessary delay or changes, because if you are already eligible, why wait?
Just do it. Just do it right away. Yeah.
Well, that's that. And remember, earlier we also discussed the new visa. So now, what's the new visa? So towards the end of 2024, next year, the government will create a new visa which called Skills in Demand, and with a guaranteed permanent residence. So that's right. The new visa has a guaranteed permanent residence pathway. So it is likely to replace the current 482 visa, which is temporary skill shortage visa. It is an employer-sponsored visa. So the new skills in demand visa will have 3 different pathways, being the specialist skills pathway, the core skills pathway, and the essential skills pathway. The specialist skill pathway will be available for applicants who meet the general eligibility criteria, which mainly just you have an employer willing to sponsor you and you have some sort of work experience. And this cohort applicant can be working in any occupation. So there is no occupation list. They can be in any occupation except for trade workers, machinery operators, drivers, and laborers, those lower skilled. And it required the applicant to earn at least 135K per annum. So that means this specially skilled visa applicants usually have higher premium income, and they have the special skill that the Australian wants. The Australian employer want to keep them. That's why they offer such high salary and they want to keep them. And the department is considering if the employer willing to offer such high salary, then you must be good. And we don't want to get into the way between you and your sponsor. So we want to grant this visa as soon as possible. And the department is looking at 7 days turnaround. So that's very fast visa process and very little requirement, but you just need to be really good.
Exactly.
And of course, the department think about not everyone are expert. That's why they also have the second pathway. We call it core skills pathway. So the core skill pathway will be available to the applicant who have occupation again on the new core skills list. So that's right, there will be a list, and where is this list is not yet to be recovered because it's still in discussion what kind of occupation in the list, because over the year we see lots of new occupation emerged, which is very different from like 10, even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, especially in the IT industry. There are lots of new occupation developed, and the way the current occupation list, which Australia have, is developed more than a decade ago. So that list will not fit for purpose. And that's why there are discussion that what kind of emerging or new occupation, as well as the older, the common ordinary occupation should be on the list and is in discussion. So for this core skill occupation pathway, that you need to have a occupation on that list and need to be paid at least a national threshold salary. At the moment, that threshold is 70,000 per annum. And I think it's quite achievable, to be honest, and given the current Australian salary level, that if you have some sort of work experience in a professional job, the 70K mark is kind of quite common.
Agree.
To achieve among all kind of industry for professional jobs.
Right.
Yeah, so, and then remember we also have the third pathway is essential skilled pathway. So essential skilled pathway will be a more regulated pathway because it's targeted to workers still skilled, but maybe not as a higher level, but we still need them. So those workers may not earning that 70,000 per annum. They will be a lower paid. That's why the government will have more regulation for this pathway in order to stop the worker exploitation because they've been paid not as high as others. So the government now is primarily considered to have this pathway set up in the context of care and the support economy. So the common I can think is somewhere in aged care industry where those care workers that may not earn as high, but we do definitely need them because Australia is an aging population that we do have that need. So that's about the employer-sponsored visa, the new setup, and I think in general, it will benefit lots of people, especially people with higher income. But right now, your occupation is not on the list, and this new setup is definitely going to benefit.
Agree, Alice.
And at least we also have some future proposals that where the changes have been mentioned, and there are lots of things that they want to do, but not in, probably you won't see it next year, and there will be a lot more detail released at the later part of the next year, which is the point system. So lots of international students actually eventually got their permanent residence through general skill migration, and we all know the general skill migration requires you to go through a point test system. And because the system was built up again, like a decade, and that's why it's quite an aged system, and the department want to make some changes because they feel that the setup is so rigid and it's not flexible and complex for people who want to migrate. So they want to simplify it, and now they are considering change in weighting of the work experience in Australia and offshore, and the age weighting, and as well as recognizing the potential contribution who would be made by their accompanying spouses. So that's lots of things in discussion, but we won't be able to tell until later half of the year. When they review more detail. So this is kind of things in discussion. They want to change, but not yet have more detail. The other thing in this similar cohort is the global talent visa and the business visa. So there are very little movement in this financial year for both visas, because we all know that because the restriction for the quotas and reduce the quota for global talent visa, that the movement is minimal. So the reason is that because the migration strategy, before that strategy, they also did a review, and the review actually find out they want to merge these two visas because they feel at the moment Australia have more than 100 subclass visas, and it's very complex system for international student to business people to highly skilled expert to scientists to manipulate through this system, and where you have so many subclasses to choose from. So which one is more suitable? And sometimes, lots of time, it's overlapping with one to another. So they are thinking to merge some of the visa. They feel serve the similar purpose. That's why the discussion is to merge these two visa. So then the aim is to drive the growth in the sector of national importance. So all this is changes that are still in talking, and we won't know for more until the middle or later of the next year.
Right. So that will be mid or next year. However, the initial changes which you mentioned, Alice, like English requirement change, new genuine student tests that will come into picture, all that will be implemented in next year, early next year. And then post-study work visa most likely will be changes implemented in July next year. Yeah.
It's likely in the middle.
Middle of the year.
Yeah, given the past experience, I expect it will be a new financial year thing, because our financial year starts from July. So it's making sense when they say middle of year, that may be indicating July.
July. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Is there anything else, Alice, to highlight apart from these changes?
I think the message we want to give you is that the strategy itself is a 99-page long book, and it doesn't really have the detail how the department gonna implement it yet. And we all know the devil's in the detail, and there will be more information once more detail released. And if you already in study, I don't think you should be panicking, because it doesn't really make any difference. So if they're gonna change, they're gonna change it anyway. And why panic now?
Agree.
And they're like, For example, like a few days ago, they said the offshore study during the COVID will not be counted for 485 visa. And after we submit the complaint and the inquiry to the Department of Home Affairs, and they realized they didn't provide enough detail. And later, just a few days later, they said, well, from February 2020 until the November this year, the period, if you have online study, it could still count towards your post-study work visa. So you can see there
So they
are,
honored it.
it can be changes over the night with more details, and it's either, so that's why we don't want any student to panic, because
Correct.
it's not the end of the day yet,
No.
and we have the
No.
detail.
Yeah, and what I can gather from from a layman language and from third perspective, Alice, hearing you, it seems it's actually going to work in long term to make the migration system better in favor of student, and also the study part, like you, the GST, where they're going to introduce to support genuine student to come and study. That is also in favor, because we see so many other students come and do small courses and try to go for extension. Sometimes they also apply like refugee tribunal, like long wait, wherein sometimes on the other side, a genuine student, let's say we're studying IT accounting, also struggle. But by talking about this new system which you just mentioned, GST, then the employer visa pathway which they are about to introduce, that is really going to assure you that if you're studying and you are someone passionate in that stream and manage to find a job, you have the pathway already available to you, versus the rules we have currently, who doesn't support the graduates who are actually working in this stream. They're still competing
Yes.
with other candidates, which I find is sometimes not fair. But with this new announcement, I think this will support more students if they do work in their industry and study in the same stream.
Yes, you're right. So I think the intention for the Department of Home Affairs is to make sure that you came to Australia as a genuine student, you're doing your course which benefit to your future career, either in Australia or in your home country. And if you made a decision to work and you managed to find a job in Australia, you should be providing a pathway towards permanent resident, one way or the other. They don't want to have you in Australia as a temporary resident for very, very long period with no hope to stay. So
Exactly.
message they are sending.
Yes. So I think that was a great summary. Now, Alice, thank you very much for providing this information. I'll just quickly summarize, and then I will move to Summer from student perspective, talking about some of the big wins and courses. So as per Alice, like she already mentioned, that there will be changes in English requirement early next year, and that will really support our students with their professional career pathways as well. The more confident you are in your language skills, the better chances you have in Australia, in terms of your study, excelling in your courses, finding scholarships, and eventually working with the employers here. So that's one part. The new genuine student test will come into picture next January 2024 as per the information. Again, we still need to find out more details on this one. However, till December, you can still process your visa application with IDP onshore and IDP offshore offices as usual. Once the new test will come into picture, it will give you more liberty to say what you really want to do and study, whether you want to stay here, study and stay here afterwards, or you want to go back. You can actually write your intention to immigration, and then they will give the decision accordingly. So it will give you more liberty and peace of mind. So it's more relieving information. Then we have changes in, Alice mentioned about the graduate visa. We used to have 2 years visa always, all this in the past history. During COVID, we got some extension of post-study work visa to 3 years to 4 years. What government is doing, and hearing from Alice, we are moving back to post-study work visa, which used to be in place pre-COVID. So bachelor's, master's still get 2 years of visa, and master's by research, PhD still get 3 years of post-study work visa, which is good enough to gain the experience and sort out your career and migration pathway. However, we are still waiting for further details, and we will let you know. There is a possibility that current students might not even get impacted. Again, we need to find the information. It's not official. What is the technical part and who will get impacted with this one? Regional visa, Alice mentioned, students who are studying in regional and finding job in regional, finding employers will always get a priority. So big win here for regional. Students who are planning to go to regional or study in regional, please don't panic. Huge opportunity, and your post-study work visa is longer than usual to other candidates. And lastly, what Alice mentioned, new skill visa, guaranteed migration pathways. So anyone who has got specialized skill and earning certain salary will have a migration pathway, regardless whether the skill is there or not there. Then there will be a skill list for core skill pathways. So someone, let's say in STEM courses, IT, accounting, you are working in your streams, your employer can sponsor you. So again, I feel like this will give you more confidence in terms of the migration pathway versus where you're trying to achieve certain point system and trying to go into the pool with independent PR option. So that's amazing. And then the new point system as well, which will not come into the regulation until late next year. However, that will again more work in students' favor because this point system, as Alice mentioned, designed decade back. So a lot has been changed. So hopefully the new point system will work in our students' favor. So these are some of the changes. Now I will hand it over, invite Summer as well. Summer, as we can see, there are some exciting news and some part is little concerning for the students. What do you think and how it will impact our students and what are the options they have currently?
Yeah, sure. Let me just maybe talk about some key points of the takeaway and also tips from the student's perspective. So I just want to follow Alice mentioned about the timeline. The first takeaway for myself is the English language requirement. So as Alice and Amrita already mentioned, the visa's English language requirement will be increased. So we provide the IELTS learning materials for you, student, just for information, so that you can prepare the IELTS and improve your English language skills accordingly. And if you are planning to take the IELTS, my suggestion is that to book the test as soon as possible and also take the test as soon as possible as well. In addition, so if you're in Australia and you are planning to apply for the student visa, IDP also offers the one skill retake, particularly applicable for the student visa applicant. So that will be which hugely benefit your test results. So I think that's one key takeaway for me in terms of the English language requirement. And also the second tips for the international student is for the employment opportunity. So as the government advocates to develop a core skills pathway to meet the targeted workforce needs, like actually Alice already mentioned. So I recommend the students from now onwards, please choose career which you are passionate about and those in the high demand in the job market. For example, like such as IT, engineering, technology, aged care, and other STEM areas as well. The government will give the high priorities to these areas and also to the universities level as well. In terms of that, so IDP will support you in the new pathway for the talented poor. We provide a career counseling services guiding you toward the education pathway that lead to the employment in the targeted industries. And we also run the regular resume and also the career workshops. So please be in touch with us if you have that needs. So this is the second takeaway for me in terms of the career and employment opportunities. And last but not the least, as we know, the regional, it's a really big winner to all the international students. So I want to emphasize the good news that we have really amazing many regional universities, not only just providing the world recognized qualification and also the quality education as well, but also the regional benefits, which you can still extend the 485 visa for the extra 1 to 2 years. And they also provide a generous scholarship from the accommodation to, the destination scholarships as well. So to know more about the regional universities benefits, so all you need to do is just to get in touch with us, our onshore team and also the offshore IDP offices to support you further with the information and application. So Amrita, that's three
Key
takeaways.
takeaways.
Yeah, and
Amazing.
also the tips for international students.
Thank you. Very well said, Summer. And I echo something similar as well, that regional is a big winner. Employment will be the key focus as well, where government really want international students to study and work in this study stream. So again, an example, student coming here for accounting or IT, go on post-study work visa, gain the experience, and then you can go towards the career, either go back to the home country or you can stay here and look for the employer sponsorship visa, which is clearly endorsed by the government. So again, something for you to consider. Then they really want to promote genuine students to study higher ed courses with low risk providers. And who are these providers and universities? IDP works with all the Australian universities, so we can support you with your application and visa process. So don't be hesitant, don't be nervous, get in touch with IDP offshore offices or onshore offices, and we can support you further. Lastly, as Alice and Summer mentioned, I will now wrap up the whole session, and please rest assured we will come back with more information once we know what are the timelines, who is going to, when they're going to implement, and who is going to get impacted. We will give you more information. But as for now, please watch this video, pay attention, go through the information, and if you still have questions, get in touch with IDP onshore and offshore, and we will be able to support you. Please don't be nervous, because such news can create a little bit of panic and uncertainty and restlessness, but we are really here to support you. And like Alice and Summer mentioned, government's message and overall approach is to support international students and get the genuine talent. They're not discouraging, they are really encouraging genuine students, and this is your time to shine now. We will get back with more information on what it means and what are the timelines. Till then, stay tuned and be in touch with IDP offices to give you more information. You can still make an application for January and February intake, and for visa and application, you're still not late. We are here to support you and help you to get across the line. All right, so on that note, Summer and Alice, thank you very much for providing the information. To our students, our contact number is 1-800-664-700. We will be back very soon with more policy updates. And till then, stay tuned and get in touch, and we will support you further. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Summer.